request we seem to get around these parts is for more games with the UED, the United Earth Directorate, in them. So I guess we gotta get to delivering here. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this custom race, I'm right there with you, so we're gonna break it down together. That bright yellow disc behind the mineral line is a call down. A new structure has been summoned, no worker required to build it. The UED has Amazon Prime and they don't have to pay for delivery. There it is, a brand new arsenal, which is the UED's basic supply structure. It's the equivalent of that Terran depot right there. Instead of supply, it gives you logistics, same thing, different name. The cool thing about the arsenal though is it can be upgraded or evolved into a variety of interesting turrets. Now that cute little robot dude with the funny hat is called a beacon. You can't use call down in areas you can't see, so you send a beacon. Oh, beautiful, it's a Protoss style hatch block. Oh, forget that, correction, it's a standard Terran eBay block. Now the beacon has no attack, so he's powerless to stop this. This is very clever. Our Terran players just exposed a weakness in the UED that I hadn't considered before. They are especially vulnerable to hatch blocking. So the beacon's going for the third, but look at this, the SCV is faster. Let's see if he can even pull this off. It's gonna be close. No, he doesn't get it down. Now the good news for our UED player is he's completed his teleportation node and he's already building his basic attack unit. He's got 2 Garms on the way. Look at that SCV beating up that beacon twice his size. The beacon's got 150 hit points, so he's not likely to be killed before he can be rescued. But still, a really neat opening for Terran. 2 workers trying to bust down that eBay. Here comes the Garms. Think of them as Zerglings, kinda. That's their burrowing charge ability, very handy, it has a cooldown. Think of those Garms as the UED Zergling. Each one costs 50 minerals and they don't have a lot of hit points. Just 45, but they are fast and they have a really nasty shot. Okay, our UED player gets his command center or his operational headquarters down at his triangular third. And I better introduce our players while I still can. Our Terran player joins Albert Einstein, Gandhi, and Aristotle because he is great people. Because when you're that awesome, you're not just a person, you're a people. But we've also got to introduce our UED player in the top left. If you've ever gone for a Botox and it went bad, you know you need a Retox! Okay, but while I'm goofing around, things are happening. Retox got himself a fast tactics academy and immediately went for the Icarus Catalyst upgrade. I really like this choice because it transforms all your Garmers into what I'll call the poor man's Baneling. When killed, they blow up for 30 damage in a pretty wide radius. The popular tactic is you do the burrowing charge to get into your opponent's mineral line, and then when he defends and kills your Garmer, you wind up blowing up a bunch of his SCVs. It looks more spectacular than it is, but when you consider the Garmers don't even cost you gas, it's a pretty good deal. Meanwhile, our Terran player's already finished his factory. He's got it onto a tech lab, and he's making a Cyclone. It's not an obvious counter to the Garm because the Garm is light biological, but you can bet that Cyclone's gonna outrange them. He's actually making a second factory, so we are looking at a meching Terran here. Meanwhile, Retox is going for a very popular UED upgrade, and that would be authorized spare rifle batteries. It turns out a couple of extra batteries really turns your strike trooper into a kill machine. Retox doesn't actually have any strike troopers yet, but he's obviously thinking ahead. It's a range and damage upgrade, but it also gives you a bonus against armor, and you guessed it, that's what Cyclones are. Here comes that Garmer. Can he use his burrow to get by? No, he's just gonna walk right up the ramp. And that is gonna make for one of the most impressive looking First Bloods we've ever had. If your death is gonna be meaningless, you might as well go out in a giant pillar of orange smoke. Each of those teleportation nodes can produce 2 units at a time. It's like a reactored barracks. In addition to the Garms, we're now seeing strike troopers and a combat drone called a Hurricane. And hold the phone, I think he's actually making APCs. I've actually only ever seen a player do this once before, and then I was informed it was by accident. That large white vehicle is an APC, a troop carrier. It does have a gun on it, but its main function is to act like a medevac that can't fly or heal. So the Drakkar APC really fills a niche that No other unit does, perhaps because it's a niche that we didn't know existed. They actually turn out to be quite handy, but my initial reaction was, why do you need a unit to transport something across the ground? Pretty much most units are already capable of overland travel. And to be honest, the APC isn't really that much faster. But the short answer is, it's because if the APC is destroyed, the units inside are not destroyed, they just unload. And so it's a good strategy for delivering units in close to the enemy. The APC's got 125 hit points. The Cyclones are gonna immediately go to work. There's the unload, all the Garms appear, they kill a Cyclone, but the rest of the Cyclones just eliminate those Garms. There's a bunker there with some good SimCity. The Garms charge to get in close, but they pull back. GreatPeople's getting blue flame Hellions, and that's just gonna chew up those Garms something fierce. Garms are light and they will burn like Zerglings. You're probably wondering, what does Garmers stand for? And I believe the answer is Genetically Engineered Monstrosity. Doesn't quite work as an acronym, but I can live with it. Retox trying to decide whether he wants to attack or pull out. He's switched his production to Strike Troopers, which is a good choice given those Cyclones. Oh, and now he's making 4 Lazaruses. That's something we haven't talked about on this channel before, I don't think. That's the UED Combat Medic, but with a darker sort of necromancy type twist to it. Whenever a trooper runs out of hit points, instead of immediately dying, they go into a state called incapacity for a few seconds. Incapacitated troopers are eligible to receive the Lazarus spell called Lazarus Device. It brings the trooper back alive at half hit points. And the crazy maddening part is, the Lazarus unit can cast that spell over and over. So as long as you have the medic energy, the same trooper can come back to life 4 or 5 times. Oh, Terran's gonna counter. He's got the blue flame and he's working on +1 vehicle armor. Retox has rebuilt his army, including those APCs. And he's putting down those arsenals in nice positions where he can rebuild them as turrets. One of which is now an infusion tower. That's what that orange flame is. That's actually healing, believe it or not. He's not burning his own army. And that's gonna make it a little bit tricky for Terran to attack into that. And if you saw that strike trooper flashing blue before he died, that's because he got the incapacitated property. Oh, those Hellions just lay waste to those Garmers. With all those damage bonuses, I think a Hellion can almost one-shot a Garm. Not quite, but 2 definitely can. Still, GreatPeople has to turn back. He's just looking at too many strike troopers camped next to that infusion tower. No, I'm wrong. He's gonna try from another angle. I'm hoping we can see a Lazarus device in action here. If you see a dark blue health bar, you know you're looking at a revived trooper. Nope. Retox let me down. He was too busy winning the battle to showcase the ability. I guess we'll let it slide this time. And here we can see some turrets upgrading. Those are suppression towers, ground to ground, extra damage against light, with a fast rate of fire. The opposite is the heavy tower, which does that slower, high damage strike with a bonus against armor. Terran lifting off to take that triangular third, which is going to put him ahead on bases. Terran's actually up 15 workers, and he's accomplished that without any worker kills. I think we might be looking at a superior macro player. Though actually right now we're looking at Tyrannus. Those are the missile launcher troops. Ground to ground only, but since they shoot 4 shots at a time, they can get you a lot of damage for the relatively cheap cost. And if you keep them in the game with Lazarus device, they can be pretty darn efficient. You'll notice that suppression tower heals structures too. And weirdly, the electric fire effect takes place even when the unit's already at full. Oh, planetary going up at third. Terran's gonna make that a tough take. Retox did not make the heavy tower, instead he went for a missile tower. Fun fact, the suppression tower, the heavy tower, and the missile tower are all detectors. Only the infusion tower is not. So the UED can actually have its ground towers as detectors. That's handy. It detects the DT, and it kills the DT. Truly a handy all-in-one tool. Retox trying to get his third going. He's starting to fall behind here economically. He might need to think about going for a trade with that army. Some economic damage would help him from falling too far behind here. But he's probably gonna have to take on that fortress to do it, and that is not appealing. Retox does not have anything with any significant range right now. So you can kind of see that the UED has all these great turrets, but one of the disadvantages they have is they can't get them up so quick. Sort of like Brood War, where you have to make the creep colony before you can make the sunken colony. You gotta plan ahead. Okay, that is officially more APC troop carriers than I've ever seen in my life. I'm not complaining, this is neat. I'm not convinced it's that great, but you know me, I have a special love for players who try new things. I remain a bit nervous that Retox isn't attacking though. He's got the bigger army while he's getting beaten up economically. Okay, here we go. He is pushing out. He just wanted to make sure that all his troops could travel in style. I get that. I mean, who actually walks to the battlefield anymore these days? Everybody takes a limo. Jeez, I don't know if I want to be healed by anything that surrounds me in orange electrical fire. I just don't think I'd have the trust to participate in an infusion tower. Oh, good micro by Terran. He pulls back and lets his cyclones hit on the run. Oh, it's a fortress hug. Does Retox have the firepower to bring it down? He's getting it close. Look at the Terran surround. The UED just got slaughtered. My bad. I totally encouraged him to do that. I did not see any Lazarus device going on in there, and I think he needed that. Oh, the fortress is back up to full. And now the UED has neither the army nor the economy. He's gonna need to do something to get himself an advantage. Some kind of tech or something to catch his opponent by surprise, maybe. Will GreatPeople try to push his advantage, or will he sit back and grow larger? Oh, he's actually going for Liberators. He's making them 2 at a time. Oh, and not just Liberators. He's going for the Advanced Ballistics upgrade. That's a comparatively rare one. That's the +3 range upgrade for the Liberator. Retox is going for +3/+2 for his numeric upgrades. He does have a slight lead there. Look at this. GreatPeople taking the time to repair even the lowliest of his Hellions. He really is GreatPeople. Retox teleporting in 7 Tyrannus. If he knew about the Liberators, he would love that choice a little bit less. But based on what he saw in the last battle, it's an excellent compositional choice. I bet he'd love to put out more vehicles, but one of the problems that Retox has is all of his upgrades are focused on infantry. But the infantry, of course, is all light, and as we saw, it's just getting chopped up by the Blue Flame Hellions. In fact, GreatPeople started researching smart servos. That's a very rare tech lab upgrade that lets all the transformable units swap modes even faster. In this case, that's probably for Hellions going into Hellbats. I almost think he's better off keeping them as Hellions. That blue flame just slices into the entire bioball. Meanwhile, GreatPeople has his 4th up and operational. Oh, and he's gonna push out. He's got the Liberators he wanted, and he's looking pretty scary. For Retox to hold, he really needs GreatPeople to sort of smash himself on his turrets. That's the one way I see him going toe-to-toe with his army. Remember, Liberators cannot target buildings. Only units, so defensive turrets are pretty good against them. Even the ones that don't shoot up can at least ignore the Liberators and battle everything else. Oh, it's starting to look like GreatPeople's gonna slow push this. He's gonna set up his Liberators carefully, leapfrog them forward. We've got pink circles of doom. The Liberator's Concord cannon can one-shot a strike trooper. Hold on though, he does have an armor upgrade. He might be able to survive a shot. Oh, Retox does not want to give up that high ground, but I'm not sure he can stay. And GreatPeople's just making more and more Liberators. He's just gonna blanket the entire area. Oh, Retox is gonna try to make turrets underneath. The Liberators can't shoot him, but I'm pretty sure everything else can. Oh, he did go Blue Flame Hellbats. GreatPeople needs to move up though. He doesn't want to let those turrets actually get in. Okay, he's on it, he's on it. He's using scans to keep his vision up top. 2 arsenals make it, but they're not turrets yet. Retox attacks into the Terran. The Liberators are just gonna chew that up. He's not in range of the infuser, and those are dead infantry. The suppression towers are still putting up a fight, but there's just too many. Oh, he's gonna blow right by them and go for the 3rd. Nice move by GreatPeople. Retox trying to remake his army. 14 strike troopers teleporting in. They have +3 attack, which is really good. They just can't really take a punch from this Terran army. There goes the 3rd. Oh, Retox is building a missile turret right under those Liberators. Those Cyclones cannot let that get up. I'm like transfixed watching that missile turret get called down. It actually got up. Oh, but it's all in vain. Now the Cyclones go after it. And the Liberators deal with the next wave of strike troopers. And there's a stranglehold over Retox's base at this point. I'm not sure how he gets out of this now. He needs like capital ships or something. I think he was a ways away. Oh, was there no GG? He just exited the game. There's nothing to be sour about there. Stick around, I got some stuff to explain. Okay, let's talk UED. I want to break down a few concepts for this race and see if we can play theorycraft a little bit here. First off, we got to talk about the most central concept in the UED, and that is the call down structure ability. It's insanely good. I mean, think about it as a spectrum of awesomeness. On the deep end of suck, we have the Zerg. When the Zerg makes a building, it actually loses the worker. It's not quite as awful as it sounds in practice because thanks to its centralized production, the Zerg thankfully doesn't actually need to make that many buildings most of the time. Next, we have the Terran, the Chiron, and the SCII. You don't lose the worker, but the worker is out of commission while the building is under construction. Let's call that normal or average. Then you have the Protoss, or more recently, the Genetron. We're into awesome territory now, as they can make buildings just by traveling there. They don't have to stick around. But the UED is a whole new level. You can construct a building without even having to send a worker there in the first place. How is that not OP? Well, maybe it is. But the game designer definitely made some efforts to try to balance it, and it's really quite cool. First off, call down structure does not work unless you have vision of the area you want to build in, thank God. Not just removed fog of war, but active vision. So for example, as the game starts, if you want to build a wall at your natural, you can't because you can't see it. If you want to do that, you need to pay for a 75 mineral beacon and send it down. Note that every building a beacon makes is 75 minerals cheaper, so the price is a wash. The second balancing factor is that call down structure does not work if you are using the operational headquarters to build a salvager. So, if you want to use call down, you have to actually halt your most essential macro commandment. Thou shalt not stop making workers. That's a pretty big deal. But I think if you practice, you can develop some builds where you do call downs in between brief macro pauses. Call down does not take very long. In fact, call down does not have a cooldown at all. If you have the money, you can call down 10 structures as fast as you can spam it. And that's my thought, actually. I feel like there might need to be a brief cooldown in between call downs. We can all quibble over what the number should be. I guess the other balancing factor is the UED does not have an econ boost ability like Mules, Chrono Boost, or Energize. Saving the workers solely for the purposes of gathering resources is kind of how the UED gets their boost. So it's a tricky concept. It might be overpowered, but I feel like a lot of clever thought has gone into it. But enough about the call down. I want to talk about the Drakkar APC. Why? Because I'm not sure I'll ever see another game that is going to showcase it quite like this. Thank you, Retox. You could probably tell from the video that my initial reaction to the APC, and it has been that way for a while, is that the Drakkar APC is a rather useless unit. I was okay with that because the UED is pretty flush with killer good units. A subpar one doesn't seem so bad, other than the fact that we'll never see it in play. I mean, what good is a transport if it doesn't fly? I mean, using the continuum of awesomeness again, consider the other races and what they have in the transportation category. The Nidus network transports an infinite number of units and puts them right behind enemy lines. Mothership recall is right up there, and so is Warp Prism. The APC just drives on the ground. I figured it would at least have 1 million hit points, but it doesn't. Just 125. I mean, even a simple Overlord with ventral sacks can at least fly your units over cliffs and terrain. But I belatedly realized I've been thinking about the Drakkar APC completely the wrong way. What it has that makes it stand out from the Medevac, the ventral sack Overlord, and the Warp Prism is that When it blows up, its cargo survives completely unharmed. And that is the game changer. In a way, it's actually a bit analogous to the Chiron fuse. It's not a transport, it's a shield. It's a 125 hit point shield. Now, there's important differences between the fuse and the APC, obviously. The APC shield has a gun, and it shoots. Whereas with the fuse, the underlying unit can still attack. The units inside the APC cannot. As an aside, how cool would it be if the units inside the APC could attack? It would be like a mobile bunker. A unit like that would be crazy fun. Anyways, I think there are going to be clever uses for the APC. Players just need to figure them out and then show them to me. The obvious one is to load them up with Garms that have exploding Baneling upgrades, aka the Icarus Catalyst. That way, the APC becomes like a suicide bomber delivery device, delivering this deadly payload that in theory can do up to 240 damage, 30 times 8. And that assumes the Garms don't actually shoot anything. So my point is, don't make the mistake I did and overlook the APC. It just needs a clever strat to go with it. Now, I also wanted to talk about the Lazarus device, as I think that's the UED signature spell. But I think I'm going to save that for another game. I'd like to find a game where the UED player pulls the ability off a bit more than we saw here. Fair to say, this game illustrates that it's not easy to do in the heat of the moment. The last thing I need to do is properly attribute the UED creator, the developer behind this cool and interesting race. He's a guy that goes by the name UED Commander. The last time I made a UED video, I mistakenly attributed his work to the Oracle, who is the guy who made the playable campaign UED First Light. I messed up my UED people, and I apologize to both of them. I'm learning. Anyways, we'll probably have some more UED games in the pipe, and if that interests you, the safest way to make sure you ever have a chance of seeing them is to subscribe. So do consider it. And let me just say, from my base to yours, Zugzwang out. To continue your StarCraft journey, Nova advises you to click the video in the upper rectangle. But Kerrigan warns you to watch your 6 and click the video in the bottom rectangle. Or you can stimpack your StarCraft experience. Subscribe to Zugzwang StarCraft. Just hit the circle. From my base to yours, Zugzwang out.